It seems like it usually is the New York Yankees. They're the tabloids. They're the face of New York on what's going to go on in the offseason, how much money they're going to spend, or what free agent are they going to bring in. Well, this year, it's a completely different outlook. And really, for the last 2 seasons, it's been a completely different outlook to major league players and major league teams. And what I mean by that is, well, the Yankees are not the talk of the town anymore. It is the New York Mets. And this is coming from a Yankee fan. Right now, there's stories coming out, not only from Baseball Digest magazine or Sports Illustrated. A lot of people believe that Kris Bryant, the longer he sits in free agency, the longer this lockout lasts, the opportunities will open up for the New York Mets to scoop him up. When this lockout is over, it might open up bigger contracts, might open up more opportunities for National League teams to bring in a guy like Kris Bryant, because there will be a DH, I believe, added to the National League. But really, the fact is that he's sitting right now at home, not making any money. You talk about guys like Jacob deGrom, who got the contract a couple of years ago. He's making money. Max Scherzer got his contract from the New York Mets before this lockout. Seager, who took the $300 million contract from Texas before the lockout. And then Seaman, another player that got a big contract from the Texas Rangers before the lockout. When you see these players, they're sitting home smiling, because it doesn't matter if there's a season or no season. Kris Bryant, he's not making any money right now. He is a free agent. And I think that when this lockout is over, if it's in February, if it's in March, he's going to be looking for that contract more sooner than later, because you can't go into the season expecting to take that 1-year deal where you're going to make, you'll make 20, 25 million. And if you have a bad season, you put yourself in harm's way of not getting that long-term deal and that extension that you always wanted, or that you want as a big-time young player.
Any player that's remaining unsigned right now is very confident in the players' union and what they're going to be able to win in this lockout in terms of getting what they want for the contract stipulations. Now, most of the changes, I think, will come as a result of the younger players more than the veterans like Kris Bryant, but still, in terms of the leverage that these players have, they still can win in this lockout if, say, Kris Bryant gets the big money that, again, he might be thinking he might get or not, for somebody that's a multi-positional guy but not really great at any defensive position. And throughout his career has been kind of streaky. He had a great year last year with the Giants after being kind of streaky with the Cubs, and obviously won an MVP back in 2016. How much leverage is that going to have in comparison to his down seasons? And for premium positions, also guys that are different ages, free agents right in their prime, like we saw with Bryce Harper, like we saw with Manny Machado, and now we're seeing with these two Rangers that you mentioned with Simeon and Seager. So what kind of leverage will that kind of thing have? Kris Bryant is gambling to an extent in terms of what money he could make, but apparently trusting in the players' union for this. And if the Mets are the favorites to get him, obviously trusting in Steve Cohen.
I'm reading things right now for the Yankees, and Jason Dominguez is a guy that I'm reading a story that came out December 17th, which was a couple of days ago. Mike Rosenstein from NJ Advanced Media of NJ.com wrote that it's no secret the New York Yankees are mulling their options at first base. Perhaps they make a run at 2020 NL MVP Freddie Freeman, or maybe re-sign Anthony Rizzo. But if general manager Brian Cashman wants to save some dough, he could trade for Oakland A's first baseman Matt Olson. The 27-year-old all-star set career 2021 with 39 home runs, 114 RBIs, according to that. But he's saying that if they do trade for a guy like Matt Olson, they would have to trade Jason Dominguez, Luis Gil, and Chad Green for a guy like Olson. I don't see that to happen. That's too much to give away. Jason Dominguez, who I think is a 5-tool player, still very young, 18 years old. Why would the Yankees trade their star outfielder? It could be the next Mike Trout in the future. I can't see the Yankees doing that, Speedy. I don't know why people seem to write these stories just to gain a story. And that's a lot to give up for Matt Olson. Matt Olson's a good player, but you can overpay Freddie Freeman and bring in a much better player. And Luis Gil, he looked great last year. Why would you trade one of your best young prospects in your farm system? It doesn't make any sense, Speedy.
Matt Olson is not the price for that kind of thing. You're looking at a younger guy for Olson, but still not the elite of the elite first baseman in the league. And even so, first base is not really the quote-unquote premier position when you're judging contracts nowadays. It's shortstops, third baseman, center fielders, and obviously pitching, which the Yankees could definitely use some pitching. So if there's a young pitcher that becomes available in a trade where they can make that kind of thing work, then maybe you could consider pulling the trigger. I wouldn't do it for a first baseman when Rizzo, I think, should be able to re-sign for a pretty good price as it is. So even if they don't get Freeman, I don't expect them to get Freeman, but if he does become available, yeah, that's definitely the target. A durable guy, great team leader, as we know, consistent. It's for batting average, great defensive first baseman, and it's not super old. Obviously, Olson's younger, but it's not super old where you're concerned about the age right now, even if he does end up taking something like a 4-year deal. So I think that's still the path that you're going to go on. I wouldn't do it for Dominguez. Obviously, the Athletics being the small market team, they're going to push for that kind of thing first, but it's still not realistic where it is right now for somebody like Dominguez to be the starting point for that kind of offer.
I know a lot of Yankee fans are not excited about this signing. They signed former Atlanta Braves center fielder Ender Inciarte, but first of all, was a Gold Glove winner and an All-Star at the outfield position for many, many years with the Atlanta Braves. So
Diamondbacks too.
Yes,
very good.
He's an old player, but he's a good fill-in player, a bench player that you could bring in who could play center field and help out if Aaron Hicks can't play the position this year or can't stay healthy at the position this year. Now, I do believe the Yankees will look at options, more options besides Ender to be the guy, but to get a guy like that on a pretty good contract, a minor league contract, who wants to come play in New York, yes, he's a veteran player, but he's won Gold Gloves. He's been an All-Star. Why are you going to be upset about that as a Yankee fan, adding a player of that magnitude? He's only 31 years old, too.
Yeah.
So he's not an old player.
I always liked him in Arizona, too. He was always one of those players, kind of like A.J. Pollock, teammates at the time. They were talented but hurt. He's not a power hitter, but he hits for good batting
He's
average.
one of those steals. We've seen a lot of these guys not hit for average or hit for power. They come to the Yankees, and they do.
But in his peak, he did hit for average, so he just didn't hit for power. So maybe the Yankees could find some power out of him. He is a left-handed hitter, so maybe the short porch could help him. Obviously, he's not going to hit like 20 home runs, but maybe you could elevate him to be in the 10-15 range, which he's always been more the average contact hitting and stolen base type. He was never a lot of the true center fielder. He played a little bit of it with the Braves, and obviously a little bit of the Diamondbacks when Pollock was hurt, but Pollock was always the primary center fielder. That being said, he still has good range, though. We'll see how the injuries caught up to him, but for a minor league contract, it's a good gamble. I always thought he was very underrated.
They also signed Jimmy Cordero, who I think is a good pickup for the Yankees, too. Now, they could put him as a relief pitcher. They could also put him in the starting rotation if need be. I think bringing in Jimmy Cordero, they gave him a small contract. They're making their small contracts. They're making their small signings. I don't think the Yankees are done. I don't see the Yankees not making a big signing or having a big signing or even making another big trade where it can add pieces to make this team a much better team. They're not ready to win right now with the team that they have set up. So I don't think the Yankees are done. But Jimmy Cordero, I think that's a good move for the Yankees. They didn't obviously trade anybody. They brought him in. He looked good with the Blue Jays. He's looked good with the White Sox. He's a good add-on piece.
Yeah, versatile pitchers are what they need. So obviously it's not going to be a big guy, but it's a start. It's something that you need. And the Yankees are trying to build a modern bullpen. That's the biggest key. With Chapman being more of a pure closer, Britton, he's versatile with the Orioles, but still not the same pitcher he was. Obviously had a bad season this year. And outside of Loaizaga, really don't have that other consistent option when it comes to a versatile reliever. So it's a start. Obviously, it's not going to be the only one. More will come after the lockout ends, whenever that ends up happening. But it's something. Try him out and make it work. The Yankees always done well with relief pitchers, like growing them, so I trust him.
He's a starter, first of all, and I don't think he's going to start for the Yankees. I think the Yankees are going to put him in the bullpen. He strikes out a lot. In 8 games last year, he struck out 65. His whip was 1.373, and his ERA was 4.55. Now, is that a good ERA? No. But again, if you put him in the bullpen, you put him as your 6th inning or 5th inning guy, or even your 7th inning guy, he could be a very good option for the Yankees. And he's still fairly young, 30 years old. So the Yankees are starting to add pieces to their roster. Now, are they closing or finishing pieces or pieces that you're going to say, wow, this team is a championship competitive team? But I'm telling you, the Yankees have always hit on 1 or 2 of these guys that they bring in that nobody liked. Ender, bringing him in as an add-on outfield option. Still a young player, still can catch, still can play defense, still can hit for average, left-handed hitter. So I think the Yankees are slowly but surely adding pieces to the team where they can compete as they move forward when this lockout is over, Speedy.
You brought up Aaron Hicks. Inciarte was kind of like Hicks with the Twins in a way. I think Hicks was a little better of a hitter, but it wasn't by much. They were kind of that same center field defensive type, hit for a high average in certain years. Hicks was a little more inconsistent with that, but still was a better hitter. I think all-around hitter with home runs, RBIs. And the Yankees elevated his power to the next level. And maybe they can do the same thing with Inciarte. Do I expect Inciarte to get that level of playing time? Probably not. But if Hicks is hurt, that definitely bodes well. If even one of their other outfielders is hurt, Judge is always hurt, Stanton's always hurt, you have a good other option to make that kind of thing work. And if Hicks is healthy playing in center field, you don't have to rush Inciarte into center field because it's not his natural thing. He's played it only on occasion throughout his career. So it's definitely a good depth piece to have. I always thought he was underrated.
The Yankees are in position to make a big move. Now, is it going to be Freeman? Who knows? If it's going to be Correa, it's going to be an option that the Yankees are going to have to make. And if they do that, where are they going to put Volpe, their top prospect? Are they going to move him to third base? Are they going to move him to second and trade Gleyber Torres? Only time will tell on the way the Yankees are going to really put this team where they want to be. Brian Cashman is a genius. The guy knows what he's doing. So I think a lot of Yankee fans need to lay low and let this guy do what he does best. And that's really recreate the wheel of what this Yankee team is going to be. As far as the Mets are concerned, I think Kris Bryant is definitely an option for them. I don't think the Mets are done. If they land Kris Bryant, I think they're done. With the amount of money they've put into 4 of these players, especially Max Scherzer, give him $130 million of contract for 3 years, 43, highest paid pitcher, highest paid player in the major leagues right now, if you really look at it.
MLB history.
Yeah, so I see the options are not going to be so deep for the New York Mets because Steve Cohen is opening up his pockets and really dug deep in his pockets to make this team a competitive team and playoff team. So it's going to be very interesting as we move forward in the lockout.